Hi guys, welcome to this session in Microsoft Visio. What I want to cover in this module is how to create your own stencil and why I believe that you should create your own stencil. I'm going to use the basic diagram template to show you how to do it. So I'll just click on that and then create my little stencil. There we go. So each diagram template that you select has some preset stencils already populating down the left hand side. So on this diagram, this is the basic diagram. If I just open that up a little bit, you can see it's got basic shapes, arrow shapes, decorative shapes, and graph and math shapes. With the options at the top there, you've got quick shapes, which is just a snapshot of some of those, and then more shapes at the top, where you can basically bring a stencil in from any other template, of which there are many that you can see there. Look, as I just hover over some of these, that one in particular is a huge set of stencils you could bring into this diagram by just clicking onto one of these. Now what you've got to be careful of though, like I'm looking at that one there, sometimes some of these other stencils, the scaling is different to what you might have on your diagram. So you can't bring a floor plan stencil in maybe or a basic organizational charts template, because the size of the shapes will be completely different and not appropriate. You might have to create several stencils to cater for that sort of issue. So all of these can be brought in. Down the bottom there, you've got open stencil. That's where you would go for opening up a stencil you've already created. But to create your own stencil, you're clicking on this option here, create new stencil, metric or US if you want a US one. I'm going for that one, metric. And you just end up with a little stencil there with no name, little star. If I click on the star, it will allow me to save this, save that stencil. I right clicked on that actually. And then it goes to where the other stencils are, and I'll just call this testing. That's going to be called testing. It's going into documents, my shapes, save. Now to add shapes to this, basically there's a couple of ways of doing it. You can click onto one of these other stencils, whichever one. If I go for basic shapes, probably wouldn't be bringing a square, but this is how you can do it. You just pick up that shape and hover over your stencil. It will then open and you can just drop that in and it brings up the name of that shape. And then you can see the floppy disk there ready for you to save it if you want to. If I go to do that again on a different one, so I'll go for this shape, hover over my stencil, wait until it opens up, drop it in. Another way you could do it is you could search for something. So if I just type car at the top there, this will show me all the cars that are in Visio, if any, and then you can basically do the same sort of thing, drag it onto your stencil, but you cannot see your stencil while the search box is open. So what I tend to do is, if I wanted that, I would just drag it on here, then you close the search box off, and then you can drag that in. Now when you drag that in, it's coming up with not the name of the car, so I'm just going to call that Steve. You just give it a name rather than leaving it as master, and then that's how you can bring in that way, like that. You can also do this. If I just get myself back to basic shapes, scroll up to the top for it, basic shapes, that one, and let me just get a triangle. Well, let's get the cross. So I'll get the cross, and then I'll get two triangles, sit them either side of this cross, like that. Now you've got some tools up here where you can play around with these position, so rotate shapes. If I flip that vertically, no, horizontally, that's the one I want. So I want basically these all to be one thing, so I bring these in a little bit. You see the little lines there. Now if I highlight all of this, I can group these shapes and create my own little shape. So you've got group at the top there. I'm clicking on group and then group, and then this becomes a shape like a set, if you like. I'll just move it around as a group. Now if I go back down into my stencil, click on that, which is still open, I can then just pull this in there and I've created my own shape. Again, it's got a name. I'll just call that sax. Call it something that means something, not just my name. And then I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to close this stencil down. So right clicked on it, close, and it's gone. Now I can use that stencil anywhere. I just need to go and get it. I'll get it again for here. So go more. This time I'm going to open, and then it should see that stencil I just did testing. And there we go. Now I can do that in another diagram. If I created a different diagram or used a different diagram, I could bring that into that diagram if these shapes are relevant for that. So in the past, I've created nodes for a project flow chart where there wasn't one as a diagram stencil previously loaded, so I created my own. And then I created about 10-15 separate stencils for different types of diagrams that I wanted to use. But I think it's a really useful thing to do, create that stencil. Now if I save this diagram, which I'm not going to do, this stencil will be saved with it. As long as I don't close it, it will be there when I open this up again. So creating your own stencil, this is what this video is about. Hopefully it's of use. I think it's very useful. But thank you for your time. I'll catch you in the next one.